Hello everyone, it's Jin'taan here and welcome to another video. And today we're going to go over 10 things that I think CCP could announce at Vegas. And I want to clarify that this isn't predictions, but I want to try and continue being positive about the future of the game because it felt good to kind of do that earlier on in the month. And, I'm well aware that it would be pretty much impossible for CCP to do everything that I would like done with the game in a short period of time. And I think that's true for pretty much everyone, no matter what you want to see in the game. You're not going to see CCP just announce one day, everything's fixed, everything you want everything you want to happen is going to happen. It's going to be small incremental change, and we should all probably accept that. But, Vegas and FanFest 2020 just feel like the events for me where CCP is most likely to announce their plans for EVE going into 2021. So I guess it's more of a list of some things that I hope are announced at Vegas and why I think they might be announced at Vegas, but that doesn't make for a very good video title now, does it? So I'm going to include what little scant evidence I can find for CCP heading in the direction of the things that I'm going to be talking about, and that unfortunately means that I've had to cut some things that I kind of might want to see on that list, like faction warfare, because there just isn't really much indication from CCP, as far as I'm aware, that they might work on it. But if some of these things end up being talked about, I'm going to be pretty pumped. I'm going to feel like CCP's got their finger back on the pulse and they're moving in the right direction again. And I guess it's ranked in a slightly arbitrary fashion, as you would expect from a top 10 list, so consider the order to be how pumped is Jin about this getting announced. And if you're hoping for something different to me, or you feel like I missed something out on the list that's going to be really exciting to you, feel free to leave it in the comments. I'd be really interested to see if CCP does announce anything that people are super excited for, just going forwards with this big event. So number 10 here is something that people might not expect from me, because I know I don't really get a reputation of playing that many games outside of EVE Online, but it's actually going to be Nova. I really hope that we hear some more from CCP about the future of Nova. It's a game that I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to play quite extensively during my time on the CSM. I didn't really take advantage of that, I will admit. I only spent about 5 to 10 hours in it, but I really liked the gunplay in it, and I was looking forward to seeing how the actual combat side of it developed. I didn't feel like the balancing in terms of how maps played out and stuff like that was there yet, but I'm not sure how deep into it I can really go with regards to the NDA that I'm under, but it was something I super enjoyed, and I want to know what's going on with that product. And we still see CCP talk in the Dust Veteran Discord. We still see them having not had it cancelled. We occasionally see job postings up on the CCP jobs portal for FPS designers and stuff like that. I feel like there's still a chance we might hear something out of CCP from Nova, and that is something that I'm super looking forward to, even if it's not Vegas. I think this is something that CCP will inevitably have to talk about, and I'm looking forward to that, even if it is just the finality of, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. Number 9 on the list is something that should be technically possible, and I think has been, if not announced, at least talked about before, and that's adding in 3v3 Abyssal PvP. Right now, if you're in a cruiser Abyssal site, you can obviously choose to take the PvP room at the end of your site and go and potentially fight someone else for an extra prize. But in 3v3 Frigate Abyssals, you don't have that option. And I don't know if that's just because of how the queuing system works or something like that, they can't easily implement it, but I would really, really love to see 3v3 Abyssals just have PvP. I think that would be really entertaining. There's so much you can do with a lot more pilots, you get a lot more interesting fit options, you can have people try and do support roles, but you're also limiting how degenerate people can get by the fact that they have to clear the content in order to get to the PvP room. So, I'm not sure if there would be anything stopping it, but it is something that I hope CCP announce, because I feel like it would be a great opportunity for giving a bit of that small-scale content to the game, letting people feel like they have a way to do PvP without automatically getting blobbed. And I don't say that to imply that blobbing is bad, but I think there is a perception among people that you can't do PvP because you will get blobbed, and giving people an avenue into PvP where they can't be blobbed, so that they can start to learn the basics of PvP kind of more naturally, would be great for the game. I think that's exactly what we need right now, is a way to make PvE players who are in high sec feel safe enough in starting to try and experiment with PvP in kind of controlled circumstances. And faction warfare used to be that, but I think that's gotten again kind of a boogeyman status, and it's obviously something that hasn't had a lot of love from CCP in a long time. Number 8 on the list is something that we have actually seen announced as well, and that's a continuation of Tierside, and we heard some bits about that in, I believe, the April balance patch, and we also saw it in, I think, EVE Toronto, where they announced that they were going to do like armor repairers, shield boosters, resistance modules, and probably a couple of other things that I'm forgetting right now, and that's really good. But what we don't have yet is an idea of when that's going to be implemented and how things are going to get changed over and what specializations we're going to have. I'm just hungry for more details, because I don't want this to end up being something like the Pirate Implant scenario, where we've had them announced for summer for like the past 3 years, and then it just never turns up. I want to see enough details that tell me, Tierside is going to ship in, if not in 2019, then sometime in 2020, and boom, it's going to happen. It's not something that affects me on any real level, but it is great for newer players. Like, Tierside has been great for making the game more understandable. The fact that you can just say, yeah, use a compact if you can't fit stuff, instead of having to go through and check what every single module means, and find out the highest meta variation of it that isn't ludicrously expensive, is just great. It's just like a small quality of life improvement for basically every player of the game, and that's something that I hope CCP is looking towards, as it's the kind of thing that they can use that 20% focus of NPE time on and still benefit the wider game as a whole with their changes. Clocking in at number 7 is something that if I could, I would put money on happening, and that's the announcement of more invasion content. Now, it's unlikely that CCP is going to tell us exactly what it is, but they'll probably just hint to it in some cryptic lore video or something of that regard, and let's find out what it is on the server, as that seems to be CCP's kind of modus operandi with regards to the invasion content. But we have seen them follow through on their promise of spending about a year on this feature. There's been very, very regular deliveries of content for the past 4 to 5 months, and it's something that I can't praise them enough for, really, because we've never seen them dedicate a team to PvE in this sense before. I've even written an article recently about how much I've been enjoying this feature. It's one of the first times that I've been doing PvE for the joy of doing PvE, rather than because I want to earn money so I can go and do other things in the game. And that's just a great sign to me. I won't speculate as to what it's actually going to be, but yeah, more invasion content, please and thank you. Number 6 is a little more niche, but I think those of you who understand me and understand what I've done in the game will very much understand why, and that's an announcement on the future of either the Alliance tournament and probably just the competitive side of EVE Online in total. I don't know if CCP is going to be doing the World Tour again next year, but if they aren't, then they don't have the excuse that they had in 2019 to basically dedicate zero resources to competitive gameplay. I won't go into the fact that I tried to run a tournament this year and didn't get the support I felt that I needed. I think that's the most diplomatic way I can put it, in order to run that tournament. But the fact that we haven't had an AT is not great, and we've had a lot of people just leave the game as a result of it. But if in 2020 we don't have the AT, a lot of people, I think more people than CCP is expecting, are genuinely considering or using that as a decision point as to whether they continue playing the game. It's not, I think, at this point about the Alliance tournament itself. It's more the symbolism that CCP is willing to actually go out of their way to make something like the Alliance tournament happen, to show that dedication to the community, because it's something that feels like it's been severely lacking from CCP, outside of occasional tweets from Hilmar for the past, 6 to 7 months. And, this is something that we haven't seen that much indication about happening. I will be real. The closest we got was the comments in the community part of the CSM minutes, and occasional tweets from Fozzie talking about it. You know, we will have to see on this one, but it is something that I am crossing my fingers and other extremities that we do hear something about, because silence is quite possibly the worst thing that we could get on the subject of the AT at Vegas, because I don't think we're going to hear anything about it at London either way. Now, in at number 5, we have something that is technically, I guess, already announced, so it's more me guessing around what something that CCP have announced could be, and that is the session from CCP Rise on the core gameplay revamp. And we don't really know what that is, but given that 80% of the dev time of CCP right now, at least according to both Hilmar and the CSM minutes, is being spent on NPE, I think we can assume that this is going to be something that is geared towards newer players, and that probably means that what it means by core gameplay is reworking some of the base features of the game, and there are a lot of things that could really mix in that pool. Something like skill training or navigation, even the overview might be in the crosshairs. I mean, we heard Hilmar straight up say in his AMA in the CSM minutes that he didn't think the overview was the best thing for new players. You know, we could even see reworks to the trade window or something. Oh, sorry, not the trade window, to the market system to make it more easy to understand. There's a lot of things that we could do there. That CCP could do there. I'm not a part of CCP. But yeah, I hope that that is what is announced. But either way, it's going to be really interesting to see what is entailed by this announcement. You know, core gameplay revamp is so ridiculously vague that it inherently leads to people just projecting whatever they want onto it. And so I'm trying to be conservative and go for something that I think is likely, and also something that would be beneficial for the game. And I think this is probably it. Something that would make a core feature of the game more usable to new players, but without sacrificing too much depth. Number 4 is something that's even more ambitious, but I think weirdly something that's even more likely to happen, and that's the beginning of at very least a discussion about a potential resource revamp for EVE Online on a galactic level. And this is because we've heard from a long time that CCP just isn't happy about the economy. It's something that we heard all throughout the CSM minutes. It's something that we've heard from representatives of CCP for the past 3 to 4 months during the Chaos era, and it's definitely been the target of a lot of CCP's changes. You know, we only really heard them say that they were happy with the EVE Online economy during the very peak of the blackout, which was, you know, obviously rolled back recently, which means that the economy probably isn't in a state that they consider to be healthy right now. And because of that, what I would expect, especially given what else CCP Hilmar said in the AMA about procedural resources being a big part of his future vision for EVE Online, and him being present at the event and therefore likely to speak, means that we might start to see the first hints of what that really means. You know, how is CCP looking at the problem, and what are they going to start to address? Maybe we'll see some kind of Chaos era touches in that direction, but I don't expect that we're going to see a full plan from them. But just the fact that CCP will start to shift their attention away from faucets and more to the things that enable faucets is something that seems like a natural progression to me. And I hope that we do see something with CCP being aware of that and starting to tackle it. Now, number 3 on the list is something that's all but been announced already, and that was in the CSM minutes, where there was a part of the contents page which obviously didn't make it through the NDA process, simply labelled as new feature. Now, we don't really know what that might be, but the fact that it's a new feature means that it's likely not going to be the same thing as a core gameplay revamp, and it means that there is something new that's coming. And the only real hint that we have towards it that I can really add to that is the fact that when I tweeted about it, Arith, who is obviously a member of the CSM, replied to me saying something along the lines of, "It's a zesty one." You know, he seems to be implying that it's going to be something substantial. So I would expect to hear at least some hints towards it. I don't even want to speculate what it might be, because, you know, NDAs and stuff, I do know some of the things that CCP has worked on in the past that haven't existed in the game yet. And obviously features get scrapped in development all the time, that's not that unusual, but still, a new feature for EVE Online sounds exciting, and no matter what it is, I think everyone will be at least happy to see CCP work on a new feature and have a new aspect of the game. You know, I've had a lot of enjoyment with Invasions, which was the latest new aspect of the game, and I think you do need that constant flow of new stuff to do in an MMO, or people will inevitably stop logging on. Number 2 is something that's been a continuous sticking point for me for years, and it's also something that CCP has announced that they were going to do this year, but then just didn't follow through on that. And it's just more balance changes. In the April balance changes pass that happened earlier in the year, we had CCP straight up say that they were going to do more passes in July, I believe, and those just never happened. And whilst that is understandable, sometimes dev time gets moved to different areas, I hope that we do see at least one more balance pass this year, and if they had the confidence to announce it back then, that means that they do know some of the ships that they are likely to want to try and balance. I'm not going to speculate about that right now, because I guess a lot of that's going to be covered in my top 5 worst ships right now video that I'm working on. But yeah, I hope that we have someone like CCP Rise or CCP Fozzy just get up on the stage and be like, hey, here's a bunch of new subcap buffs that you get to play around with. I've talked about it before, about how important having new balance changes are. Even if they don't shift the meta, just giving people a reason to fly things that aren't the meta for a short period of time is super great. It just stops the meta from being nothing but mirror matches, which ultimately is what I think a lot of people dislike about the calcification of a meta, is that it eventually just boils down to every side flying one ship all the time for every operation and just running them into the same fleet of the other side, because it feels like individual skill doesn't matter even when it actually does. Just as a consequence of it feeling like it's a numbers game always. You feel like if you're fighting 60 Munions against 70 Munions, that hey, they're going to be able to trade for longer than we're going to be able to trade, so why are we going to engage? And that just leads to a lot of blue balling and other unfun stuff. So yeah, bring more doctrines into the meta, even if it's only for a brief period. Before we go into number 1, we do have an honourable mention, and that's the Triglavian Dreadnought. I think that's pretty much been conclusively announced at this point. We've seen too much of it on Hobo leaks, we've seen too much of the structures get revealed. We know it's coming, it's going to be cool, like 20 people are going to own them, but they'll be pretty fun, and when they die I'll report on it. That's pretty much all I have to say about them. Like, I know I'm never going to get to fly a Triglavian Dreadnought, and I'm probably never going to get to kill one either, so it's not something that really impacts my gameplay, but for the kind of people who scream about, oh god, we need those Angel Cartel caps right now, hey, good for you, you're going to get your version of those now. Alright, so finally we get to number 1, the Big Kahuna, the thing I'm most pumped for CCP to possibly announce at Vegas. And this one's really simple, it's just a vision for the game. Like, right now, I want to know what is EVE Online, or more accurately, what is CCP Games going to be doing with EVE Online in 2020 and 2021. Because it feels like myself and the general community have just been left in the dark about it. And I understand there's the whole Chaos Era thing, but we haven't seen a lot of Chaos Era changes for a while now. It feels like the Chaos Era is over. So I either want, CCP Hilmar or someone to come up on stage and be like, hey, the Chaos Era is over, here's what we learned, or hey, the Chaos Era is going to be continuing, but here's what we learned so far, here's what we're going to be focusing on, here's what we're going to be trying to achieve over 2020 and 2021. And there are just some moments that really call attention to the fact that CCP is trying to present a vision to the community. I just think they're really bad at it. Like, there was a moment in the CSM minutes that I just can't help but think of, where the way it's written makes it sound like a CSM member asked kind of said to CCP Hilmar, it doesn't feel like you have a vision for the game right now? And CCP Hilmar replied with, that's our vision for the game right now. And I know that's not what happened, and it's probably just an artifact of them removing some stuff for NDA reasons and not proofreading it. But, that does feel like how the community feels right now. That's just very emblematic of a response. And I think it just leads to this really toxic attitude where people are just questioning, is CCP even paying attention to their game? Is CCP even doing anything? And I don't want people to be going down that rabbit hole, because it's not a healthy state of mind. It makes people disengage with the game, and I don't want to see people disengage with the game. I want to see this game continue to, as Hilmar said, outlive us. And in order to do that, people have to continue to have faith in CCP. But that's not blind faith. CCP needs to continue to at least present a few miracles if they want people to believe. And I know that sounds harsh, but it is the way faith works. You need to produce results for people to believe in it. Still, that wraps up the list as I see it. If you think something else would fit on this list, or if you think something I've suggested is completely not going to happen, like I said, throw it down in the comments below. A special thanks for supporting the channel, as always, goes out to our Crassuses in Pinche Infidel from Old School, Brood from Triumvirate, and Zolkalando, as well as to our other $5 patrons in Dustin Prater, Meeks, Czar, Olav Olden, Raphael, Big Bada Boom, and Dunk Dinkle. If you want to support the channel yourself, you can either check out the Patreon link in the description below, or if you'd like, just share the video with some of your friends that you think might be interested in it. Thank you for watching, and until next time, fly smart.